G'day guys, and welcome to Explain 10 64-bit. This is my Carenado C210T Centurion, and I am at Ardmore Aerodrome, which is actually very close to home. I've actually flown out of this place in real life. So I've decided to do a quick flight. It's actually very nasty weather here. This is right next to my house, and it's very dark, very raining, but luckily not very windy. So I've decided to do a bit of an IFR flight with NDB beacons. So here I am setting up the first leg, and I've used X-Flight. It's a program called, or a website called xflightplan.com, and set up my flight plan. It's worked out all of the beacons for me, given me my my flight plan details. That's great. And I've set up here about 6,000 feet, cruising, and dial in the runway heading, and pretty much ready for takeoff. Just check the flight controls. Now this is actually very similar to the real Ardmore base, but of course it's missing the buildings off to the right, so there should be a small terminal there and some Air Force training buildings off to the right, some small planes. There's actually a grass strip just off to the left as well. So it looks like the plane's ready to go. Got 1 degree of flaps, and handbrake's off, and we're ready to go. So it's not very windy, I don't think. The cloud cover here is very bad, but I don't think it's quite so bad around the rest of the country. So I'm heading south from Ardmore, and I'm flying southeast to Tauranga, and then from Tauranga I've got a VFR leg to Rotorua. That'll be my destination. That's just off Lake Rotorua, I believe, so it should be pretty easy to find that, just looking for the lake, as long as the cloud cover isn't too much of a problem. Okay, so throttling back after taking off here. You could hear the gear go up and the flaps go up. The sound is really good on this aircraft. Now this is not a flight simulator economy or Explorer or anything like that flight. I'm actually taking a break from that because we were robbed. One of the staff members was not part of our gaming community, and that person basically transferred all of the assets and months worth of money and air bases into his name and then sold them. So some poor person has purchased them, and I'll probably talk about that a bit more later on. So I'm not continuing on with Flight Simulator Economy until that gets sorted out. And if it doesn't get sorted out, then I'll just can it, and I might pick up something else which is similar and just run with that instead. So getting the prop out of the max RPM will get that into the green zone. I've also just leaned the fuel mixture out a little bit as well. So you can see the dial off to the right, bottom right there, is the non-directional beacon, which is what I'm basically following on frequency of 314. And I'm just kind of the dial there, I'm just calibrating the compass headings on it, so it kind of matches reality. And you can see it's really annoying with the point and click there. You can accidentally reset it with the click on the button there as opposed to turning the dial. Now the landscape around here is actually, even though it's default, it's very close to real life. It is very similar as to how that area actually looks. We're heading off towards Thames basically. You can see there's a forest with some small lakes off to the left. That's actually the Hanua Ranges. It looks pretty much exactly like it does in real life as far as the sim is concerned. So it's quite well modelled. That's actually a massive water catchment area for home, which is Auckland City, and it's really close to home. You can go for bushwalks and see the can see the falls there. There's a big waterfall. Very nice, although I doubt I'm going to see the waterfall in X-plane by default. So I have a bit of trouble here figuring out exactly the lights on my dashboard. It's a little bit dark. I'm playing with the real weather and real time as it is, so it's tying up exactly with the lighting that I'm seeing outside right now, which is pretty cool. So as it gets dark in real life, and there's not much to do because it's such bad weather outside anyway, so I'm perfectly happy to sit here and peacefully fly my little X-plane. Now the clouds, as I climb up, may cause me some problems here, and the reason I say that is because as it currently is in X-plane, the clouds are very invasive. They are very it suddenly ranks up to whiteout, and you're not really expecting it. You might see that pretty soon as I head towards these clouds. And I'm climbing up to 6,000 feet, so I'll definitely be heading to through some pretty thick cloud. I'll just lean the mixture off a little bit less, I think. Get kind of peak performance out of the engine as we continue to climb at 1,000 feet per minute. So I'm around 4,000 something. You can see there the water catchment area and the Rotorua ranges, and we're heading off towards the Hauraki Plains. I think that might be Waikato or the Hauraki Plains over there, but that looks very similar to how it looks in real life. There's a huge amount of farming that goes on around there. There we go. So this is that kind of, I don't know if it's buggy or just annoying, the whiteout conditions where you're flying through wafty clouds, and then all of a sudden, and almost for no reason at all, you lose all visibility. And it would be quite nice to just have a little bit of cloud animation going past, as opposed to this complete whiteout. I've turned on the anti-ice and the pitot heat and stuff. I don't think the conditions are really icy. Just looking at the temperature, I think it's about 10 degrees, and I think below 10 degrees that's when you need to start worrying about icing, and I don't think this aircraft would be very good flying through cloud and anywhere close to icy conditions. So I'll just keep that on, and that will hopefully keep me flying. There we go, so they're breaking through the clouds, and we can see some really nice landscape through the clouds. The volumetric clouds are not terrible. They're not perfect, but they're not terrible. They don't have the best animation. You can play with these a little bit. They're pretty cool the way they're animated. Definitely don't need sun visors today though. Alright, so you can see off ahead of me, kind of over there, we've got the Rotorua ranges, and after that we'll go past the Hauraki Plains, probably around there, and then across the Carenado. I don't know if it's a mountain range. It's not a huge mountain range, but it's a range, but most of it's very big hills. Okay, just monitoring that richness of the fuel. You can see we just need to come slightly left because the NDB beacon is indicating that we're not heading directly towards our first navigation point. I think the first navigation point is just after the Rotorua ranges, off in the Waikato. It's somewhere around Miranda, I think. It's this beacon that I've dialed in. Miranda's just on the border between the Auckland region and the Waikato region. So the Waikato's kind of south of Auckland and full of farms and lots of wide open spaces. Right, so that water that we see in front of us there, that's the Firth of Thames. Probably going to struggle to see any kind of interesting scenery with this weather. This would be a terrible sightseeing trip. But it is nice for a change to actually be flying over territory that I can recognise from real life. I've been flying this plane that I purchased, and there goes the beacon, so I'm flying over it currently. You can see it's flipped around, so I need to dial in 346, which is my next navigation beacon, and that is the NDB for Tauranga, and Tauranga is in the Bay of Plenty, which is way off to the southeast, pretty much on the same heading, luckily. Right, so we'll get that in. It takes forever to dial in some of these numbers with the UI controls that you have in X-Plane, but I'm getting used to it slowly. You can see I've dialed that in 346, and I've got no readback on the frequency. Nothing's coming through, and that's probably because of the Carenado mountain range is in the way at 6,000 feet, just too low to pick it up. So I'm either too far away or too low. So that's alright. I'm doing a bit of dead reckoning. I'm just I realise my track is 125 degrees. However, there is magnetic deviation, which I need to take into account as well, so that shouldn't matter too much, but I'll probably have to come back and change my course about 10 degrees or whatever the actual magnetic deviation happens to be. I'm not totally sure on this part of the world what I have to dial in. So I'm actually running with the clouds on 30% of the density for graphics optimization. You can see the clouds are pretty thick. You get some nice peaks through the clouds to see the terrain. It is quite nice looking. Right, so everything looks pretty good from the flight controls. I'm doing this entire flight in real time, so it's about a 45-minute flight, whereas it would be around about a 3-hour drive, so quite a bit nicer to fly there if you can. Not that I can, I'd have to drive. And the problem with driving in New Zealand is that it's such a volcanic country, it's almost impossible to build a straight road, so yeah, you take a lot longer to drive anywhere. Also you get a lot more danger compared to flying, because country roads are really windy and there's lots of dangerous corners and stuff like that. So down there's the Hauraki Plains. That's obviously a nice flat, fast area, but yeah, there's a lot of very windy roads and dangerous places to travel in New Zealand, particularly for people in camper vans on holiday who are from overseas and don't quite know what they're getting themselves into if they're used to the Autobahn or similar places in Europe, etc. So, right, so hopefully I'm going to get some indication of exactly where I am. Oh, yep, there is a town. So I'm not sure if that is... who would that be? It could be Ngatea down there actually, that little town. Over there would be Thames, that's the Firth of Thames over there. Thames Road, not to be confused with the Thames in England, but named after the same thing. Alright, so that's good. I'm kind of keeping track of where I am. It looks like I am definitely heading in the right direction. Yeah, I can spend all day basically just looking out the window and accidentally fly into something if I'm not too careful. Alright, and we have the NDB DB beacon, so we've picked it up. Now we're flying through some nasty clouds here, so I'm just correcting my course, and you can see I only really had to do that a couple of degrees. So I had the navigation reasonably spot on for dead reckoning and just continuing on. If it was really strong winds, which I don't think we really have, then we would have been in quite a bit of trouble, because I could be blown quite a bit off course. But I think each leg is only about 40 miles, so you can't get too far off course, I don't think. Just continuing on, and I've got a fairly good idea from the visual references of where I'm going, so and I will use that for the last leg, because I don't have any DB beacon for from Carenado to Rotorua, which is where I'm going. So heading across the Hauraki Plains, going meteorological IFR. But other than that, I think things are going pretty well. Okay, so I've got insight now. What is that? Tauranga Bay, I think it's called. Port of Tauranga Harbour. That's probably it. So Tauranga was my second navigation beacon that I'm heading towards. From there, I'm heading off to the southeast. Well, pretty much south, really. Somewhere over there, but I can't see where I'm going, and there's no clear river or road to follow according to my map, so it's not going to help me. And I'm doing it VFR, so yep, there's the harbour. Looks quite nice, and up ahead is Mount Maunganui and Tauranga, so that would be very easy to spot just from the coastline and the harbour, obviously. So just check my instruments, everything's looking good. Getting through this cloud, and then we should have a clear visual of where we're going. The NDB beacon is still pointing directly straight ahead, so no problems there. Because I'm flying VFR for this next leg, I'm going to drop down to 4,000. You can see it's a little bit of a pain here with the selection. It's kind of, you know, the dragging and the dropping. The drag left and right to select a different altitude is a real pain, and not entirely sure what to do about that, but I'm going to descend to 4,000 feet, and vertical speed limit is 500 feet per minute. Selecting the right tank so we can keep the fuel reasonably balanced and not empty one tank. I'm just making a correction here with my rudder pedals, but I'll actually dial that in with the rudder trim, just to keep the ball centered. If the ball is centered, you're making coordinated flight. It means the plane is flying straight towards the direction it's moving, if that makes sense. If you're side-slipping slightly, then the ball will be off-center, and that's an inefficient way of flying at waste fuel. And, you know, sometimes you do that if you want to slow down. You'll actually crab or side-slip or whatever. But you know, for cruising, you want to keep the ball centered, and you'll make the best use of your energy and fuel. There's Mount Maunganui, easy to spot. It's a good holiday destination, lovely beaches, and there's Tauranga. Cool. So I'll continue on around about here. I'll try and keep just under the clouds for the VFR leg. If I get into the clouds, I'll be in trouble, and that won't be sustainable, particularly around the terrain. For X-Plane, I have a little bit of trouble actually figuring out exactly what the elevation of the terrain is. In the map of X-Plane, you can see not contours, but you can see the shape of the land with, you know, shading, but I never get actual contours with spot heights or anything like that, because that's what I want. I want to know, you know, minimum altitude for coming in here, past this range or anything, you know, 6,000 feet or 3,000 feet. I never really have that, and it's a bit annoying, and I'm not sure exactly an easy way of finding for a particular flight plan exactly what altitudes I should be doing over certain places, apart from of course just flying there and looking and guessing. So if anyone has a resource to figure out, you know, with a particular flight plan that I come up with between two beacons or something, what the minimum altitude needs to be, that would be much appreciated. Okay, it's looking good. I can see as I get closer the errors increase, and so I'll just do a little flight off to the left. I can see that the beacon is pointing me directly towards Tauranga Airport, and that is just on the other side of the shore there, on the other side of the harbour, which I'm not going to fly directly towards. I'm going to do a right turn and head south before I get there. I think there it is there, so that's where the beacon is basically taking me, and there's no need to go directly there. Alright, so just skipping in a little bit, we got a little bit closer and we can now make that right hand turn off. It's about 167 degrees, so I'll set the compass direction to almost 160, just to account for the magnetic deviation. And lucky for me, in the VFR phase of this flight, I am heading into clear skies, apart from a few clouds up above me, but I'm well under them, and I've got good visibility for miles around, so looking good at this stage. I've got no visual cue of exactly where I'm going, so I'm just heading off in that direction, and hopefully I'll spot Lake Rotorua, and on the eastern shore of that is Rotorua International Airport, so that's one I'm going to be trying to spy. And it's definitely not over there, it's somewhere over there, but can't see it yet. Okay, problems. We've got some nasty low stormy clouds in front of us, and it's obscuring Rotorua pretty much completely. It's just my luck. So I've looked up Rotorua Airport and found its VOR frequency, and dialed that in. So now I have got 23 miles to go. I can see there on the direction measuring equipment, the DME, and I've got a track there which I've dialed into 185 degrees, which is the direct track. Oh, sorry, it's the runway heading. So the runway, if I get that on course, you can see that I'll be exactly lined up with the runways. So now you can see that I'm heading towards the runway, and I'm off to the right of the runway heading, so I need to head left of where it is, and I should be right. Okay, so I'm going to start my descent. The altitude of the runway is almost 1,000 feet, about 900, so at about 5 miles out I want to be at about 2,500 feet approximately. But with this cloud, I mean, I don't have any kind of precision equipment to land at Rotorua, so I'm probably going to make a bit of a low approach depending on what the terrain allows, and that will probably require me to see what's going on, but I'll get as low as I feel comfortable doing, just looking at the terrain on my map and estimating what's going on. I think coming from my direction, most of the terrain is pretty much at runway altitude, so I should be okay to come in at about 3,500 feet, and then I'll start my approach at runway altitude at approximately 2,500 feet. So really can't see anything at all, but it's not troubling me too much at this point. I should be okay. Okay, so I need the NDB ADF stuff anymore. I can turn that off. Just maintain this altitude. See, the sun is setting, and it's kind of cool when I look outside. The lighting outside is exactly the same as the lighting in the game as it slowly gets dark. Alright, so the sun is definitely setting, and I can see Lake Rotorua is in front of me, so to get on track I need to make a left-hand turn to get that runway heading lined up to be my direct track heading. So there's Lake Rotorua over there. I'm heading for the left-hand shore, which is the eastern shore, heading south, and then I'll make a right-hand turn, line up with the runway, and hopefully the clouds won't give me too many problems coming in. So I can see that light there is my destination, Rotorua Airport, so looking good so far. It's just a matter of getting through. Okay, complete whiteout, so that's not cool. We'll just continue on and see if we can get a visual on where we're going. If we can't, I don't know, I might be going back to Tauranga. Oh, there we go, got visual again. So I think it's an annoying thing that the whiteout that just kind of pops in when it just doesn't seem like it should. Looking at the density of the clouds, I can see through it here, and then pull, complete whiteout. So yeah, something which I don't think should quite happen. And I think I need to make that right hand turn pretty soon. I'm still way off on the needle. Kind of half turn in because we're heading off towards the edge of Lake Rotorua. And the one off to our left is Lake Rotorua. Wow, it's pretty much in front of us. And Lake Rotorua, white out again. Alright, so you can see on the VOR that we are slowly lining up the runway. So I'm just going to continue my descent at about 500 feet per minute, arming that. So over there is the runway. You can see the sunset's looking quite nice at this point. And this is a low approach for the distance that I am, but the terrain is fairly good leading into it. I don't have any high ground between me and the runway. Turning off the autopilot, preparing for landing. So I've got mixture set to rich, and I've got the RPM on the propeller, on the engine set to full. So we've got the ability to put the power on very quickly. The other thing to check is that you have the fuel tank with the most fuel selected. So I've switched it over before, so it does. And that sound is of course the gear coming down and the flaps coming down one. Now it's just a matter of visually lining up this runway and putting it down. So off to the right we've got really nice reflections there on Lake Rotorua. Okay, so you can see there my rate of descent shot up as I just trying to stay below the clouds, and I'll continue slowing down. See, this is really annoying. It is a degree of difficulty, but I'll just continue descending to, a lot lower than I should. This isn't really safe flying, but in real life I don't think you would have this mysterious whiteout out of nowhere for no reason when it seems like it just shouldn't be happening. So I'm not really lined up anymore. I'll just level out and yeah, get off to the right, and then we'll be back lined up with the runway. I certainly don't want to be any lower at this point, and I might have to put some power on. There we go. I think we will land with full flaps, and alright, so we look pretty good now. We're obviously coming in too low than we normally should, but that's alright, we can drag it along with a bit of engine power. So the graphics are looking pretty nice, and the thing I like about this X-Plane 10 also is the frame rate is just phenomenal. I mean, it's default scenery. I don't really feel the need to buy any scenery packs. I've obviously purchased this aircraft and another one, but it just looks awesome. You know, you fly anywhere in the world and you're going to get pretty good visuals, pretty good sound, good gameplay. It's got some oddities, but yeah, it's a bit of fun. Okay, all lined up, slowing it down. There's certainly no wind to speak of, so it's a pretty easy approach. I should be able to get this down nice and softly. Alright, check the vertical speed, power off. There we are. Alright, flaps up. Now I'm not using the brakes. I'm used to the DCSA-10 where you roll out the landing, and so you don't use the brakes until you're almost at taxi speed. So I'll do that now. And it's, you know, such a small plane and such a long runway, you probably only need a third of the runway to actually land with. It's more you use the length for takeoff runs. There's a bit of traffic on the highway. Alright, once again there's no buildings in this. There are buildings in several airports, but this one's not been populated automatically with buildings yet. Hopefully that will come in a future update. I'm not too bothered by it though. I mean, it is a small regional airport, so it's not the worst thing ever, and I'll pick somewhere to park. This'll do. Alright, park and brake. Yep, do our beams in, and I'll starve the engine, magnetos off, kill the power, and that's it. Landed at Rotorua. I can, I've got some options here as well. I can show some things off, and we can jump outside and have a look. So you can see the doors are open, the chocks are on, engine's off, and the luggage, or the baggage area, the trunk is open, so you can see the bags are in there as well. So that is X-Plane 10. Hopefully you've enjoyed that flight, and if you don't have it, check it out.